Hello friends, this is Shivam Dubey from English Kingdom, Katra, Prayagraj. Welcome to the class. We are continuing with T.S. Eliot, and as I promised, I could send you some of the previous videos of the poem Love Song of Prufrock with their detailed explanation actually. And even though I promised you that some of the important lines from this poem Prufrock we will like to explain. So with that explanation we'll continue here today, and after the completion of this we will move to the next poem of T.S. Eliot, and that would be I think that we will go with the Wasteland. That's a very important and quite a long poem, as we all know. And again I would send you some of the previous classes related to the love song, related to the Wasteland. And along with that I would like to go with some of the important lines from the poem, definitely. And here, before we move to the important lines from the poem Love Song of Prufrock, we have to go through the question session. And here is my first question of the day. What was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot? What was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot? That's my question. The first question of the day. What was the name of the second wife of T.S. Eliot? And we have answer on the screen that comes from Nagma, and she is followed by Deen Dayal. They have answered it correct to be Esme Valerie Fletcher. That's the correct one. We'll go to the next. When was Thomas Stearns Eliot born? When was Thomas Stearns Eliot born? And we have the answer on the screen that comes here from Nagma, and she is followed by Deen Dayal. They have answered it correct. The right answer is 26 September 1888. Okay, now I'll go to the next one. What kind of poem is Prufrock, or the love song of Prufrock? I repeat the question, what kind of poem is Prufrock? And we have the reply here from Deen Dayal, and he has answered it correct. The right answer is interior monologue. Exactly. Prufrock is an interior monologue as a poem. And going with the next one, now it is Nagma. She has also answered it correct, that it is interior monologue. Okay, going with the next one. When was Love Song of Prufrock published for the first time? When was the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock published for the first time? When was the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock published for the first time? That's the question. And the answer is here from Deen Dayal, and is followed by Santosh. They have answered it correct, and the right answer is June 1915. Exactly, Nagma. That's a good one. So in June 1915, the poem Love Song of Prufrock was published. Okay. Which of the historical play of William Shakespeare is alluded in the poem Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock? Which historical play of Shakespeare was allusionized or alluded in the poem The Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock by T.S. Eliot? And we go for the answer. Oh, no, Nagma, it's not so. Actually, it was Henry IV, part first and part second, from Henry IV, that was allusionized there in the poem. What's the name of the artist from the poem Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock that the two ladies discuss? What's the name of the artist from the poem Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock that the two ladies or women discuss in the poem Love Song of Geoffrey Prufrock? Okay, and the answer is there on the screen that we find from Deen Dayal, and he has answered it correct to be Michelangelo. That's a good one, right answer. Okay. What's the name of the friend of T.S. Eliot with whom he spent almost 10 years from 1947 to 1957? What's the name of the friend of T.S. Eliot with whom he spent almost 10 years of his life from 1947 to 1957? What was the name of the friend of T.S. Eliot? Okay, and we have the answer. Okay, that comes here from the reply of Deen Dayal, that is Charles Webley. Okay, going with the next one. When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? When did T.S. Eliot breathe his last? And we receive some answer that come here from Deen Dayal, followed by Nagma and Santosh. They have all answered it correct. And the right answer is 4th January 1965. That's the right answer. Okay, going with the next one. Which was the first of the aerial poem of T.S. Eliot? Which was the first of the aerial poem of T.S. Eliot? And we have the answer that comes here from Deen Dayal, and I answered it correct. The Journey of Magi, exactly Santosh and Nagma. That was the first published in 1927. The second was the Song for Solomon. So that's the right answer. What was the name of the director of the play Tom and View, written by Michael Hastings? What was the name of the director who filmed the play Tom and View on the life of Eliot and his wife, Viviani Haywood. Good evening, Sadhana. And we go with the answer that starts with Deen Dayal, followed by Nagma and Santosh. They have answered it correct. The right answer is Brian Gilbert. Exactly, that's the correct answer. Brian Gilbert was the man who filmed the play Tom and Viv in 1994. Okay, now I'll move with the next one. What was the name of the colleague with whom Eliot was invited for Harvard in 1932 to join it, and where he spent almost 1 year? What was the name of the colleague with whom T.S. Eliot was invited in 1932 as a visiting professor? What was the name of the friend of T.S. Eliot or colleague of T.S. Eliot with whom he was invited in September 1932 to Harvard College for a duration of 1932 and 1933? The name of the colleague with whom he was invited to be the part. Okay, and we receive answer here, and that comes from Deen Dayal. And the right answer is Charles Eliot Norton. Exactly. It was Charles Eliot Norton with whom he was invited by Harvard College in 1932. And there the two spent almost 1 year, and from 1932 to 1933, 1 year. And that was a one time when actually T.S. Eliot formally, we can say, separated from his wife and could never meet her before, even after her death. Well, so the next question is here. When was his first wife, Viviani Haywood, hospitalized to a mental care? When was Viviani Haywood committed to a mental hospital? When was Viviani Haywood committed to mental hospital? And we have answer from Deen Dayal, followed by Sadhana and Nagma. They have all answered it correct. The right answer is 1938. Okay, that's a good one, Santosh. Okay, what was the name of the girl who wanted to marry with Thomas Stone Eliot from the childhood days? What was the name of the girl who wanted to marry Thomas Stone Eliot from their childhood days? And we receive some answer there on the screen that comes here from Deen Dayal and is followed by Nagma, and they have answered it correct, and the right answer is Mary Trevelyan. Exactly. Mary Trevelyan was there with whom he could spend, she wanted to marry with Thomas Stone Eliot, but finally the two couldn't get married even after the death of Viviani Haywood. Okay, right, we move. How was John Dubey Haywood related to Thomas Stone Eliot? How was John Dubey Haywood related to Thomas Stearns Eliot. My question, how was John Dewey Haywood related to Thomas Stearns Eliot? Okay, that's a good effort. And Deen Dayal, that is why I repeated this question. Actually, the question has been repeated. That's a good one, Deen Dayal. Last you answered one question. I asked the duration of time from 1947 to 1957, and you answered it to be Charles Webley. And actually, that was a wrong answer. It was John Dewey Haywood. And John Dewey Haywood, there he lived almost 10 to 11 years with him. And later on, when the two separated, because in 1957, Eliot got married to Esme Valerie Fletcher, the two had to be separated. And from there, the poems that were left by Eliot that he wrote in early youth and could not publish, that were collected by John Dewey Haywood, and later on that were the published. So actually this question, why I asked, as a reply for the question you answered as a Charles Webley. Charles Webley was not the right answer. It was John Dewey Haywood, with whom he is actually shared almost 10 years from roughly, if you see, from 1947 to 1957. Okay, that's roughly duration of his. When was Eliot given the Nobel Prize? When was Eliot given the Nobel Prize? Okay, and we have the answer here on the screen. That comes from Nagma, and she has answered it correct, followed by Deen Dayal and Nati Sadhana. They have all answered it correct, and right answer is 1948. That's a good one, Santosh. 1948 is there. When did Eliot got married with Esme Valerie Fletcher? When did Eliot got married to Esme Valerie Fletcher? Okay, and the answers coming from Nagma, followed by Deen Dayal, Nagma, Santosh and Sadhana. So right answer is 10th January 1957. That's the day when the two got married. Okay, going with the next question, and that is here. When was the poem Ash Wednesday published? When was the poem Ash Wednesday published? This question, when was the poem Ash Wednesday published? Come on, that's a question for the poem Ash Wednesday, and we have answer here. That comes from actually Santosh. He has answered it correct to be 1930. Exactly, in 1930, the poem Ash Wednesday was published. Years from Deen Dayal and Nagma. They have also answered it correct. Now I'll move to the last question of the day, and the last question is here. When did Eliot accepted British citizenship? When did Eliot accept British citizenship? That's the question. When did Eliot accept the British citizenship? And we receive answer here from Nagma, and she is followed by Deen Dayal. Now it is Santosh. They have answered it correct. The right answer is November 1927. Exactly, November 1927 is the right answer. Okay, now I'll move with the text of the poem. Already you guys have studied it because I gave you the detailed poem of Love Song of Prufrock. But here we'll go with some of the highlighted lines. As I told you, with some of the important lines. I will continue here the class. But I must tell you, those who can manage time, okay, those who can manage time, whichever video I send you there in the group, try to watch it, because that is a detail studied, and that will help you preparing for the examination as well. And right till the time shortage, so we have just come to this conclusion to go with important lines only. So this is how we will like to decrease the number of days can be engaged with a poem, and like to cover the course easily and quickly. So one thing that I always say you, if I send you any class or any video there, try to watch it, okay? It should not be just placed in a group and you never pay attention to it. Okay, right away here. So the first thing that we discuss here is actually discussion on the epigraph the poem has received there. And I told you that the epigraph is actually from the Inferno of Dante Alighieri. If you remember, we already discussed that the poem has the description of Dante and how he made Guido, and could discuss about meeting his Ulysses as well. So the opening lines that we have is actually a Latin part from the poem of Dante Alighieri, Inferno. So you can note it down. Inferno's part is there, and especially from Canto 27th, that is the line. You must remember, the epigraph is from Inferno of Dante. For the love song of Prufrock. Is from Inferno. By Dante. And remember, in Inferno there are many cantos. So we have Canto 27th. Canto 27th we can say. And from that canto we have certain section of line, and that comes from 61 to 68. So Canto 27th and line from 61 to 68. These lines from 61 to 68 from 27th Canto of Inferno by Dante Alighieri has been used as an epigraph for the poem The Love Song of Prufrock. There in this epigraph, Dante has discussed about his meeting to Guido and also meeting to Ulysses. So the two great mythical characters have been mentioned in this epigraph. I understand, Sadhana, sometimes it's a big issue. Okay, so I told you that the whole epigraph is there, and I would like to tell you the meaning of this epigraph, because that's written in Latin and we cannot go with the whole thing as a Latin. So I think if you are interested, please write down the explanation of the epigraph. Write down, please. I told you the sense, but not the explanation or not the correct meaning. So word to word paraphrase is here. If I thought my reply were to one, if I thought my reply were to one, who could ever return to the world? Who could ever return to the world? Comma. This flame would shake no more. This flame would shake no more. Semicolon. But since, comma, if what I hear is true, if what I hear is true, comma, none ever did return alive from this depth, alive from this depth. None ever did return alive from this depth, comma, I answer you without fear of infamy, without fear of infamy. Okay, so actually this line from the poem, actually not the poem, as I told you that this is an epigraph, and the epigraph has been taken from Inferno and Canto 27th, and line from 61st to 68th, that is the line range for the poem, and that has been used here, that has been placed here, and with the help of these lines you can actually see what Eliot means when he says a kind of sense. You see, this flame would shake no more, but since if what I hear is true, none ever did return alive from this death. None ever did return alive from this death. I answer you without fear of infamy. There is someone who will answer, who will be responsible about these description, about these points that have been described. And as you see that Prufrock is not very much interested, not very much trustworthy when he delivers his explanation, because he seems to be very much hesitant whenever he is explaining his intention or whenever he is explaining his meaning. The opening line of this poem is very important. I told you only important section of this poem I would like to discuss. So the opening line is here. I just read it here. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted street, the maternity retreat of restless night in one-night cheap hotels. Okay? Even the first part of this poem, I already told you that it is an interior monologue, and the poet finds himself with a discussion where he addresses the line to himself, because you already know that there is no one as a listener with Prufrock. Prufrock has placed himself as a listener, as a speaker both. So he speaks actually to himself, addressing himself like, let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. What kind of life a man lives? The man on this earth live life like a patient. Patient who seems to be helpless, all the time is spreading his legs, his hands on the table and finds himself being operated, sometimes here cut, sometimes there cut, sometimes injected. All these type of things that are troubling him. In the name of his cure, his treatment are given. This is what this man is. This man is like a patient who receives lots of pain, lots of trouble in the name of his treatment, in the name of his cure. People say, this do and your problem will be solved. We do it, but we don't find any solution. Later on we are again in a problem. This again we do. This our doing, making effort continues without any result. That is here, like a patient etherized upon a table, let us go through certain half-deserted street to muttering retreats of restless night in one night cheap hotel. So actually destination have been also discussed. Prufrock with the man he is talking wants to go to some cheap hotel, want to spend a night. But this should be, see the point, restless nights. Even there I could discuss that there is a transferred epithet in the line. The line is telling us about restlessness. Definitely night is never restless. If night is restless, it must be restless for everyone on this earth. But it does not happen. It seems to be restless to some individual. Like we sometimes feel to be restless. So if we feel restless, it does not mean the whole earth is feeling restless. This we cannot say. And then there is in the room, the women come and go talking of Michelangelo. I just asked you a question, what's the name of the painter, what's the name of the architect whose name has been mentioned there, and that is Michelangelo. The women are talking, and why he mentions women? Actually, if we see T.S. Eliot, he somewhat seemed to be a little bit, though he accepted that he owes a lot to women or female society. But from the records that we read him, we don't find that he was much indebted to them. Instead, I think that he always tried to keep himself away from his own wife, Viviane Haywood. And the main reason, as we see, is a possible affair that Viviane Haywood was having, possibly with Bertrand Russell. But this was suspected. There was no clarity. Never it was accepted. And possibly that is a point that he discusses women through the character of Prufrock. People say Prufrock is nobody else. Instead, the poet is himself. He has used a persona, has used a character, and through this character is trying to deliver his own speech. Women are talking. Michelangelo is something surprising. Most of the time, women talk about fashion, talk about love, talk about dress, talk about affair, talk about marriage. They don't talk about literature, they don't talk about art, they don't talk about artists. But the women are talking here. Michelangelo seems to be something surprising to Prufrock and surprising to Eliot as well. The next portion that we have to go with the study is there. You know, the yellow fog he has used there. And with the help of yellow fog, he discusses the passage of time. How time from one stage or one step to the next stage, next step comes, and we hardly believe we have reached to almost last recorded syllable of time. Hardly we realize. This happens like something very secretively creeps into our life, and we seem to be unknown, we seem to be unaware. This is happening, but we are not aware of that. After discussing the image of fog like a cat, he moves to the next one. Indeed, there will be time to wonder, do I dare, and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair. With the bald spot in the middle of my hair, they will say how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest but settled by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? That's the point. Do I dare to disturb the universe? This actually the philosophy of Prufrock is telling how ambitious modern man is. Just because of his ambition, this modern man makes himself look weak. His legs are very thin. His head has grown slightly bald. There's no hair on his head. Why? Because of the fooding style. He will discuss later that they take coffee, they take biscuits, and do we expect from coffee and biscuit so much potential we receive that we can disturb the universe? This we can never do. So that's why he says, and indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare and do I dare? Actually, one thing we can always assert from T.S. Eliot and even from our own life. We cannot do anything before time, and nothing happens after the time is over. Means everything happens according to time. That T.S. Eliot believed, and he has a great faith in this old system of the whole universe. And as I told you, he could explain it in his play, Family Reunion as well. There he told how Harry, the hero of the play, finds almost the same kind of circumstances that his father went through. The time keeps revolving around us, keeps moving around us. Today or tomorrow, someday, we all have to pay for it. That's why I say, time will be there. Indeed, there will be time to wonder, do I dare and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair. When we go up, it's just because of time. When we go down, it's just because of time. So time for up, time for down, time for ascent, time for descent. Time is for everything. Time is for everything. Time for ascending, time for descending. We cannot say just time is for descending and no time for ascending. Everything, positive and negative, both happen in our life according to time. It is just time that decides everything. Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. This happens actually when we start our journey of success. I give you a graph actually. When we start our journey of success, we started suppose from here. This is A portion that we start, and we keep going. Suppose the B is here, that's our point. of top success. That can be the crest of our success, and then it is like descending, and possibly the same stage where we started we come to. Actually, the point when we started here, we were young, with a thick young look, hair on the head. Okay, gradually we keep walking and we reach this position. When we reach this position, we go bald. Why? We stop caring ourselves. We stop caring our hair. We stop caring our fooding. We stop caring our proper sleeping. And the result is growing slightly bald. And then after reaching this point, there's no other destination. So naturally, from the top, we have to come back to the same position. So this seems to be the position and seems to be the explanation of the line that Thomas Gray said, the path of glory leads but to the grave. Whatever we do, we achieve this B spot, B point. It's okay, that's our life. But one day we have to come back again to the same position where we started. This means do what you like, but you cannot change your fate. You will have to receive this. You will have to reach there. With a bald spot in the middle of my hair, they will say how his hair is growing thin. Yeah, the people start talking. People start talking about his hair growing thin. He's becoming bald. He's becoming weak. He's becoming thin. Everything people talks. Whatever he does, whatever he looks, everything will be discussed. So people keep observing. Just one man who does not want to pay attention to such thing is the man Prufrock himself. He knows people will pay attention, but he has a different goal and he does not want to engage himself to be caring. And this is why this one, the spot, from starting here and here, then here. This is the old stage. They will say how his hair is growing thin, my morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin. This line especially shows his sophistication. His morning coat, who puts on coat in the morning? A sophisticated man. And his collar is going to his chin. Means if you remember, in old days the collar was almost mounting up. Okay, so that's also showed a kind of sophistication of a man. So my morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, asserted by a simple pin. My necktie rich. But the point, this next should be noticed, is asserted by a simple pin. The pin is very simple. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin? Okay, when we put on the dress, when we put on the morning coat, when we put on the tie, okay, the arms that we have, the legs that we have, the body that we have will tell the pupil how we shape ourselves. They will notice that the arms we have is growing thin, the legs we have is growing thin, the body we have is actually drying, it's growing thin. He knows people will pay attention to this. People will pay attention to his growing bald, people will pay attention to his growing thin, all that will be done, but he does not want to pay attention to these problems. Instead, his meditation is somewhere else. What he says, do I dare disturb the universe? Means, is there any possibility that this man with his bald hair, with his thin hand, with his thin legs, with his morning coat, with his rich tie, does he dare to disturb the whole universe? Has he potential, has he capacity to disturb the whole universe? This is how he puts the question. And then he comes, I have measured out my life with a coffee spoon. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music from the farther room. How should I presume? And I know I have known the eyes already known them all. The eyes that fix you in formulated phrase, and when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin. When I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out the butt ends of my days and ways? How should I presume? What it says, I have measured out my life with a coffee spoon. Beautiful metaphor he has used. What kind of life he has, or how he measures his life? Simply with a coffee spoon. What is the meaning of coffee spoon, you know? Coffee spoon at some time seems to be filled. At one point, like suppose there is a coffee spoon, okay? At one point you see that the coffee spoon is full. The next time, it just turns down and the whole coffee spoon is empty. This is the life. We living this life, it seems like the life is very resonant, the life is very robust, life is very powerful. We think that we have the strength, power, stamina, everything where we have. Just a moment later, it seems like there is no life, there is no power we have. This is the truth of this life, and this is why Eliot has metaphorically discussed this life, that the life looks like a coffee spoon and the next moment it is emptied. That I have measured out my life with a coffee spoon. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music from a farther room. He knows everything. He knows the voice that he heard. Why the voice is falling? This is a very natural thing. One that goes up will come down. That's what the voice is. He knows the voice that is dying beneath the music from a farther room. So how should I presume? There's a question. Should he presume? Should he suppose? Should he believe in something that he actually does not know properly? Should he just suppose? I have known the eyes already, known them all. Now we can see which eyes he is talking about. And we have don't any clue which eyes he is talking about. We have not a very clear clue, but we can say that in family reunion later on he discusses humanites, and even in that play he tells that the two eyes are all the time following Harry. It means possibly he is talking about those eyes, and only those eyes of God, you can say, eyes of spirit, you can say, that know everything and that can go anywhere. Nothing can escape from them. Nothing can escape from them. And one as a human being always knows he is under the CCTV camera of God himself. We cannot cheat God. God is everywhere. With his open eyes, he is omnipresent. Maybe the eyes that he is talking is the eyes of God. I have known the eyes already, known them all. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. It is the eyes that tell us how to live a formulated life, how to go with a disciplined life. Once we are disciplined, once we are formulated, when I am formulated sprawling on a pin. Once a man is formulated, Once man start living a life of rule, he is sprawling on a pin, means all the time he will feel kind of pain because pins are pricking in his body. Somewhat this fact I must tell you is similar to the line of Rousseau, man is born free but everywhere is in chain. Means seems to be living very pleasurable life, but at the same time he has no pleasure. And the same thing we can say, a quote from the lines of P.B. Shelley, Ode to the West Wind, if you know. And he says that I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. Means a man who seemed to be a free spirit, very much free like a wine. Once when he was young, once when he was just a child, he finds himself formulated, burdened by the responsibilities of the world, chained by the responsibilities of the world, and thrown on the thorns of life. In the same way, sprawling on a pin. Man, when born, he was not formulated. He started living ideal life, he started living life of ideology and discipline. And later on, this discipline, this ideology, this society makes him sprawling on a pin, means start pricking him, start troubling him. Eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. When I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, if a pin are pricking in our body, will we happy? No. I think this image reminds us the image of Jesus Christ when he was crucified. During his crucifixion, if you remember, Jesus had this type of image, and there had been the pin on his body, like everywhere almost, there. Even this portion, thighs, legs, everywhere. So possibly, Jesus, who was trying to give this world how to live a good and moral life, was himself formulated, himself pinned, and himself was wriggling on the wall. Then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? When there is a last day, when a man is pinned, when a man is caught in this world, how can he spit out? How can he speak? How can he just refuse or decline the deeds he could do? We can never do it. So, he knows the eyes that can catch him. He knows the dying voices that were falling there. He has actually known the life. What life is? It's just a kind of coffee spoon that at any moment it can be measured. At any moment it can be measured. Okay. The next one we go with, the line is here. And that we come, well, to this position. I am no prophet and is no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker. I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and sneaker, and assured I was afraid. The point you guys, I am no prophet. He believes that he is not a prophet that can make any kind of prophecy about this world. He is not that kind of man. He is a weaker man, and he is not expected to have the strength or power or stamina in his life. Instead, it is supposed that the man is very weak, but when it is about his own life, when about his own doing, it is like that he is not a prophet at all, not a prophet at all. And even though if he is a prophet, he will like to see what he can do He will like to see what he can do. And we find very easily that there is not a great matter. Why there is not a great matter? Because things are very, very much clear. Things are very, very much clear. And he says, I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker. This is the very truth of this life. At one moment we look to be very great. At one moment we look to be very fine. But the next moment we find that all our greatness have gone away from us. This greatness in our life is never permanent. It is temporary. It can go away from us at any moment. We cannot trust it. So this is what actually he told, that I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and sneaker. This coat, this sneaker, this tie, this everything, mounting collar, everything that we do here physically in this mortal world, we find it to be beyond the world of that God, beyond the concept of that God. God never minds what one is doing. So whether it is morning coat or it is just a sneaker, just a laughter of a man in this world, scornful laughter. We modern men are very selfish. We don't laugh heartily. We laugh with a scorn sometimes or jealous sometimes. So poet wants to say everything this eternal footman will take away, and in short, I was afraid. It's like you see that Yamaraj comes before you and asks you, okay, are you ready to come? What will be the reaction? We will be actually afraid of. This is what is there as a point, as a theme. And that can be here highlighted, that once the moment starts flickering in our life, we start believing in God, we start analyzing our life and going back in life to see how it happens, and we are afraid. This is how the things happens in our life. The next portion is here, I am Lazarus come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all, if one settling a pillow by her head should say, that's not what I meant at all, that is not it at all. He discusses Lazarus, and I think we discuss. Lazarus seems to be a dead man who was brought back in his life by Jesus Christ. He was given a particular goal by Jesus to fulfill and to help human being here on this earth. And he tried to do it, actually he did it as well. But when it comes to discuss a woman, because he says one settling pillow by her head, it means there is some lady. So he says, even Lazarus seems to be fail. Even Lazarus seems to be fail when he has to explain something to a lady. That's what he says. I'm Lazarus come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. He is a dead man and he has come back from the dead persons, like the world of hell. He has experience of everything. Anything that anybody wants to know, he can reveal about that dead world. But the problem is there. There's a lady. If one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what I meant at all. That's not it at all. The question is there. Whatever he is explaining, the next is not satisfied. The next is not satisfied, and he says, no, that's not what I meant at all. That is not at all. Well, we move to this one. No, I'm not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I'm an attendant lord, one that will do a swell to a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, differential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, meticulous, full of high sentences, a bit obtuse, at times indeed almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. Okay? Well, so what we find here is very much clear. Clear in the sense of Hamlet is a, very wise prince that we have read from Shakespeare. And he discusses, no, I'm not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. He is actually Prufrock, and he never thought he would be discussed as a Prince Hamlet. I'm an attendant lord. He is actually kind of minor character that comes in a progress of a play, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two. Otherwise, the prince, the kind of character who has a role in the play and has a one or two scenes, like Horatio had there in Hamlet, and a very easy thing he has to do. What is that easy thing? To advise the prince. No doubt an easy tool. Differential, he is actually a different person from the other. Glad to be of use, and he finds himself happy whenever he is used. Politic, he has a knowledge of politics. Cautious, very careful he is. Meticulous, he is a man of good brain, good understanding, full of high sentences. He would like to use high sentences, means thought of great ideas. A bit obtuse, but looks a little obtuse, like a fool. At times, indeed, are most ridiculous. Most of the time, when we look at this fool, we find that he is ridiculous, almost at times, the fool. And most of the time, this fool is there. I think this fool can be compared to the fool we met in the play of Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. There's a fool, in the court of Olivia that seems to be wiser than even Olivia when she discussed. So this point you can relate to the statement of the fool, like full of high sentences, also matched to that one. Okay, right, we have reached to the last stanza. We have lingered in a chamber to the sea, by seagulls wreathed in seaweed, red and brown, till human voices wake us and we drown. This is actually the last stanza of the poem tells us that somewhere possibly Prufrock was in a dream-like situation. What he saw in his dream, possibly there were the seagulls, maybe the girls living around the sea, or can be the seagulls, seagull, kind of bird is there. Maybe that, though the spelling is girls, so we most expect that the girls living around the sea, they could have some flowers. Sometimes you see, we love to decorate ourselves with the help of garland and flower and hang it around our neck. And sometimes we use it like a bracelet, and lots of sometimes like a fragrance zone, we use it. And this is how possibly these seagulls come, and Prufrock wakes up. Prufrock wakes up and he says his waking up is dawning of his dream. That's what the last line is. Till human voices wake us and we drown. When we come back to this life of humanity, we find that the connection that we were trying to connect to, that eternity, that eternal footman, possibly that connectivity was lost, and we have lost the connection with our dream as well. This life is like a dream, I think. We all must agree, I think. And we want to live this life like a dream. Definitely, sometimes we love this dream more than the dream, and we think it to be real. And that's the mistake that we commit. And this is what he has highlighted. Till human voices wake us. When we start realizing who we are and what we can do, means giving more prominence, more importance to humanity. It means human being will be drowning. We are going down, not going up. This is how this poem Prufrock reveals the psychology of a man who is suspicious, who never wants to reveal his thought to anybody with whom he is talking. He is a modern man, exactly. This is how the modern man lives, never wants to reveal himself. So that's all from me. Thanks a lot for watching. Keep watching, keep learning, and keep working hard. Thank you. Thank you very much.